Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out this evening. First, a few announcements before we get on with our program. It is going to be a packed house, so if you got some of those straggler single seats open that you can maybe get some couple seats in a row, please squeeze together a little bit, because it is going to be a very full house this evening. So thank you all for coming out. First announcement to all of our members. I went through and updated the color coding on all the badges since the last meeting. So if you have a red circle on your badge, that means that your dues are due again. They expired somewhere in the first quarter. The orange ones are at the end of this month, yellow the end of May, and green is the end of June. So that gives you your warning for the upcoming 3 months. All right. And if you don't have one, that means you're somewhere in the other 9 months coming up and you're good for a while. All right, first slide, I want just to highlight our volunteer program. We use a lot of volunteers in this program, and this is part of what helps really helps have the quality program that you have. So the volunteers help at the front desk, they help in a lot of different ways, and it really helps the load so we can spend time to talk to you guys. So we want to thank our wranglers for their work. We also want to make you aware of our Images of America Highlands Ranch book. We put this out a couple of years ago. It's a great book. Dave's got it over there. We got several of them for sale, so if you haven't had it, I would say that it's a great book to go and get. I will autograph it. I did write the majority of the whole book, so I'm willing to autograph it. There are some that are over there pre-autographed. If you want a fresh autograph, I'll do that too. In addition, lost my train of thought there for a second. In addition, the Images of America Highlands Ranch book has a whole chapter dedicated just to the history of the mansion here. Because this is kind of the core of Highlands Ranch, so we did dedicate a whole chapter to that. Yep. Next, just photos. We normally like to take photos and document our own history. Most of the photos are big group photos, so a lot of times, unless someone's specifically taking your photo, you're not going to be singled out in a photo, but we do some larger group shots. But if you have a problem with someone taking your photo, please see one of us in a green shirt and let us know. Next up is our business sponsors. First up is Charter Financial, and I want to invite Jim Brown up to give us just a very quick speech.
Not a speech, just an announcement. Thank you for having me. How many people have been to Memory Lane, the museum? If you haven't been there, you're missing out. We host your Christmas party, and if you'd like a private tour, just call me and I'll give you a private tour. We're hosting 3 or 4 events a week, daytime, evening, so if you haven't come, you want to see this gorgeous 10-room museum. One quick announcement, there's a flyer for a shred event, shredding. How many people know what shredding is? Okay, we hire a truck every year right after tax season where you can bring boxes of your papers that you want to get rid of. The flyer's going around. It's Saturday the 28th, 8:30 to 10:30. Get there early. We get a line of cars. So again, I know we ran out of flyers, but get your stuff shredded. So thanks again for having me. Have a great evening.
All right, thank you, Jim. One of our other business sponsors is Pinnacle Chiropractic and Spinal Rehab Center. Also Nancy Linsenbiegler, Realtor. V at Highlands Ranch. Of course, the wonderful Highlands Ranch Mansion that's helping us put on this event this evening, and for all the other events that they do and the open hours that they provide to the community. We also want to thank HRCA. This month's meeting is at the mansion, but a lot of our standard meetings are at Southridge, so a big thanks to HRCA for providing us that room to hold most of our monthly events. And finally, Metro Districts for their assistance, which includes the Cheese Ranch that we do an event in the fall and the Highlands Ranch Mansion. Some of our upcoming events. In May, we have the USS Thresher disaster, so that one is coming up. We also have an RTD tour coming up in May. I don't have a flyer for this. On May 23rd and May 30th, the Denver Mob Tour is coming up. Then in June, we have the first field trip to see the Ute Indian prayer trees. Our June program this year is going to be a circle tour through the Rocky Mountains. So we'll have a flyer for that one up, I'm sure, by next presentation. We also have an RTV tour in June to go see the play The Little Mermaid. So both of those are signed up at our tour desk. And then we have another Ute Indian Prayer Tree tour coming up here in June also. So, or July. That one's in July, sorry. You caught that on the slide. All right. Also, check us out online. There's a lot of things going on, so we try to keep our website up to date. In addition, we also do have a section on there about community happenings and what is going on in our community. So not only our events, but if there's other events that we think are related that are of importance to the community, we try to highlight those also for you. So please check out the website. Next, I'd like to invite Sarah up to introduce our first speaker of the night.
Nancy and I think Doug.
Sorry.
Nancy and I dubbed Jim Teffer father of Highlands Ranch, and you will soon see why. But, okay, of course, he said he's too young to be father of Highlands Ranch.
Am I on? Good, I want to talk to you, but anyway, I want to thank you very much.
Okay. Jim came to us from California, where he worked for Mission Viejo. He came and he stayed, and we're glad he did. Okay, Jim, all yours.
Thank you, Sarah. Can you hear me okay? I'm almost 90, I'll be that in about 3 months, and so just forget, if I forget something, why am I here? But anyway, Sarah asked me to come here and speak, and she said, Jim, I'd like to. Okay. Ready? Sarah asked me to come here and talk before your group and speak for 1 minute. And I thought that over for a while, and about a day later she said, you got 15 minutes, Jim. So anyway, it's a pleasure being here and kind of reminiscing, because it's been a great opportunity for me to look back and see all the things I did wrong and all the things I did right. But, you know, I go back to California, and this is a very great occasion, because we held Virginia Slim's tennis tournament there in Mission. And before the tennis tournament, we had a party, a cocktail party, whatever you want to call it, for all the people. Billie Jean King, Chris Everett, and all the great, do you remember some of those people? Yeah. So Chris Everett comes up to me, and she said, Mr. Teffer, you know who you look like? I said, who? Who is it? Well, Steve McQueen. I couldn't even remember. And I said, you're kidding. I'm not kidding. Maybe I get on a movie. She said, his father. So that didn't set too well with me. anyway, that made me feel very badly, but anyway, all through the years, it was just a wonderful thing to be able to experience so many things in California and in here in Colorado. Now, I'm limiting everything I'm saying to Colorado because I think that's the most pertinent thing in dealing with the subject. So anyway, I have to go way back and think of a little bit, maybe 2 years back. As a matter of fact. And when we had a project going in Aurora, called Mission Bay Aurora, and I was in California, and I had a project manager there operating it in Aurora, and Pat Farrell, he called me one day and he said, Jim, he said, there's a big ranch for sale. I said, what ranch, what are you talking about? He said, the Pitts Ranch, it's south of County Line Road. I said, I didn't even know where County Line Road is, the Pitts Ranch, 21,000 acres. And so I said, well, let me check it out. So it was for sale by Marvin Davis, and he had an option to buy it himself. And so anyway, went to Phil, my boss, Phil Riley, and said, Phil, there's this big ranch, 21,000 acres, and would you like to think the Mission Bay County would like to buy it and build a new town? And he said, well, tell me about the facts. So he said, go and check out all the public opinion articles and all the governmental issues and engineering issues and the whole thing, and report back. So I reported back, and it looked very good from an engineering standpoint and all that sort of thing, but from a public sentiment standpoint, a lot of people didn't want any building, south of County Line Road. So it was going to be a tough road. But anyway, we decided to go into an option with Marvin Davis and to buy the ranch. And it was quite an experience because as soon as we had that option, we decided to go and take a look at the property. We did look at it before, that came out wrong. So anyway, so we went out to the mansion, and did anybody know or remember the mansion way back? Anybody here other, just I got 2 nods. All you young people, okay. So anyway, you're saying something. Okay. Anyway, so we decided to go out and take a look at the property, and we made our way up to the ranch house. And went through the old gate, from which they hung me in effigy later. True story. And so anyway, we made it up to Weeby Road, and off to the right, you could see nothing but weeds, sunflowers, a few cattle, and off to, right about 300 feet up, there was an area where they threw their trash or something. So we finally got up to the mansion, and we parked on the east side, and where the barns were, and got out, and it was something to behold. The grass was about 2 to 3 foot high, the weeds in the mansion, the front yard, and all the way from the patio out here, all the way back to as far as you could see, it was all weeds. And in there, also cattle were feeding, horses were there, and it was just really sad. But anyway, we went out in. And when we went in, it was quite a thing. Went in, you can see the big clock on the wall, which was built with the building, put with the building, and there was a huge fireplace, which you all know. And so we decided to go and look at the entire building. And we went in all the rooms, and all the rooms had calendars, and there was something made, and it was an X on every one. And I never did find out what that meant. But in there was dirty clothes and soiled clothes, everything, almost in every single room. And it smelled. I don't mean to be demeaning, but it was just the fact. And so anyway, we went and processed our way through there, and we could see where the old man, we called him, used to play poker and all that sort of thing, but it was really a mess. And the old clothes, everything was, but then there was one distinct smell we got in one room, and it was bees, honeybees. And it was the most fantastic smell. I mean, you just could, especially after being in all the other rooms. But, so we went around and looked, and everything was really interesting. The bowling alley was a mess, it couldn't be used. The pool there was a pool out here, and that was a wreck. A nice tennis court used to be, that was all broken up. And, right behind the pool, right next to it was a series of garages or whatever you call them. And, the carriage house. And they had maybe 5 or 6 carriages in the stalls, of which they go to programs or what have you. And you know, I just imagined as I peered, looked at the carriage and looked out through the back window or the front window, how wonderful it would have been. Just imagine sitting out there in a patio like it is today, and you have the horse driver come up with his little cart carriage, and you get out with your husband and your kids, and you climb in the carriage, and you go all the way down the Weavy Road, and you go up what is now Broadway, which was way back then just a gravel road, and you went downtown Denver, and you spent maybe an hour or 2 hours, the women spending, and come back and come back. After about 3 hours, and have the boy come in there and take your horse and take it away, and you go back into your mansion. And it must have been absolutely beautiful back then. I could sense it, and to look out over all that mess. And I don't like, again, I hate to be the it was just it was really sad. I found out where the secret room was. It was, I'm not going to tell you where it is. And, you know, later on, I'll tell you this story because I get to tell 15 stories. One night, I was going to, the girls had a book club. And they were going to spend the night here. And so I thought maybe what I'm going to do is go up there, and because it was kind of a haunted house looking out. And I was going to scratch on the windows. Scared the dickens out of them, but I never had the guts to do that. But anyway, it was quite a thing to be able to take a look at that ranch, and it was so. It was really deplorable. Then I checked the water system, and I got a sample of that, which we checked later, but it was not drinkable. And so because the cowboys were drinking that, and so were the people in the house before that. They were drinking water, but it was not pure. So that was a costly item, having to bring in bottled water, and for the people, and which we did. And so the cowboys stayed on there and kept control. I could tell so many stories, but I'm kind of limited in time because Sarah told me to stick to a one-minute thing. But there's so many great stories that I could tell you about the development of the property, and anyway, then during the process of being in that 1 year period of having in escrow, we had to do the planning, and so I moved over to Colorado, and with my family hated it until they hit the border. California, then they loved it. And so we came over and established office here, and we planned. And it was a real different experience. And we planned the dickens out of the whole development area here. And we finally, the governor was not happy. We didn't know it, but just about 300 yards to the north of the mansion, they proposed C-470. And we got them to move that. Fortunately, it's where it is. But and I never forget it. The county wanted to buy it or to build it, the C-470, and they came to me and they said, "Well, we'll give you the property, 6 miles long and I don't know, 600, 800 feet wide." And So we walked and built a little street off of the freeway that was now losing the big interchange. All we wanted was a little tree, roll it up. And, no, you can't do that. Said, okay, so they, pardon? The state, Kissinger and the governor, they don't know, they would not do that, would not let us have that little access. So I said, okay, go in and condemn, and you, and me, what do you think we paid for that? That little strip of land, $13 million. And that's what that right away cost the state, we the taxpayers, for that little bit. But anyway, as the time went on, we got to know a lot of the county commissioners very well, and we promised the moon to everything. We built schools, we built everything. And was it Northridge that we built? We built Northridge Elementary School for the district. We built fire stations. We gave the sheriff's office 200 acres down there where they've got their big program down. We just did we built all the rec centers, which were, and it was it was wonderful. And it was, we finally went to hearing. And it was a lot of work to convincing people. I mean, it was a core of Raffle County Commission of Development. And there was all these people and organizations who were very much against us. And it took a lot of trouble from my people to convince them, being for us. So we went to the hearing, and they approved us, except one commissioner voted against us. And when we were finished, Craig McCallum made the presentation for us. He went up to Mr. Whitman, who was on the commission, and Mr. Whitman, he said, I'm really embarrassed trying to compare cattle operation versus building a town. He said, it just didn't fit. He said, don't be embarrassed about that, Mr. McCallum. What I'd be embarrassed is your fly was open during your whole presentation. True story. I can tell you story after story. And we got to know the Duncans, Dr. Duncan. Some of you probably know Dr. Duncan. And he had sued me down one day, and this was after the zoning was over, and it was cold out and it was snowing, and we went into his little house, and his wife had just made a pumpkin pie, and he put 4 chairs right out in front of the cook stove, put down the lid. We all put our feet up there. She brought in pumpkin pie, gave us a piece of pumpkin pie, and real good cherry juice. That was that baby cherry juice, loaded. And but we got to know the people very well, and I think that we established a good reputation with all of them. So anyway, during that period, we had 1 year, we were in the planning stage, and we were in the option period with Marvin Davis to buy it, and we were about ready to close the deal. But Marvin had Mickey Miller was one of his assistants, and he was with us and met with me probably every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and during the whole planning process to make sure that Marvin Davis would approve of the plan that we were developing, which they did. And so it was a year later that we went up to the bank, and we finally closed our escrow, and we made the deal, and we paid $26 million, it was, for the ranch. It was a deal. It seemed like a pretty good deal. It wasn't a good deal. And so anyway, that meant that there was one caveat, one thing that we had to, we promised them that they could film Centennial here. And so, I thought, gee, this is my chance to be an actor. Never came about. But anyway, one thing that we had to do, we had to allow Universal to film here at the mansion. And so anyway, we closed the deal. I went up to see Governor Lamb, told him we made the deal. I sent the guy that had this fly open down to see the commissioners and the thing. And so we closed the deal. So anyway, the guys were ready to come in and film, and all of the trucks and the filming equipment was ready. And it was Saturday morning, I don't know what time it was. It was, well, I can tell that. But anyway, what she was saying is that we made a deal with Fitz to graze his cattle on the ranch, and we would have a tax advantage for the property, grazing cattle in agricultural purpose. And so he had that right, so to call it, and for a while, but that's another story. But anyway, I got a phone call that morning, on a Saturday morning, and the guy was kind of frantic, and he, Mr. Teffer, I can't get on the ranch. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's 6 cowboys out here with guns. This is true. And 6 guns with pistols and rifles, and they won't let us on the ranch. And I said, well, why? And I don't know. They said you can't go, that's his ranch. I said, we own the property, but we did have the grazing thing that we let him have. And I said, what does he want? He said he wants $8,000 to $10,000 to rent for the gate. I said, tell him that we'll talk about this next week, but let your guys through. And so Centennial got to come in and set up the thing, and they were start filming the final episode, of which you're experiencing here tonight. So, is there anything that I left out, Diane? Do you think that I mean, seriously, my way.
That was fine, although you'll find out that I think there were 4 or 5 episodes filmed here.
Yeah, okay. But I never was invited to be in the film. I could never understand a guy like me and Steve McQueen type of guy. But all the stories I could tell you. I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay.
You're the only one.
Not quite.
Thank you very much, Jim. Okay, wasn't that fun? Okay, and now we have Kathy Brock. Our next speaker, she's around here somewhere. Unfortunately, she has the flu. So she called this afternoon around noon and said, I just can't make it, I have the flu. So fortunately, our wonderful gentleman here had done an oral history. And so we have Kathy here on the screen for you. Kathy had owned an agency, advertising agency and marketing agency, and had worked for Mission Viejo in Aurora, and that's how she got involved with helping with the film. Okay. This is
At the
Kathy.
same time, the land became available in Highland, at what is now Highlands Ranch. The Phipps Ranch. And they began looking at it as, because they had the resources and the experience to develop that kind of property. 22,000 acres is,
I understand that it was double the size of the property in California.
yes, exactly. He did. He gave us a fair shot at that, and it was a kind of an interesting story. He called me one morning and he said, I would like you to have a charter an airplane, and I would like you to when I said, we're flying, what are we going? He said, I can't tell you. I cannot tell you anything, but just have the airplane on a Saturday morning and have a very good photographer with long lens cameras. And so I said, okay, yes, sir, we can do that. So we met at Centennial Airport, which was time was Arapahoe County Airport. And we took off and the pilot kept saying, where are we going? And he said, you just fly across the highway here. And I realized that we were flying around. And I said, oh my gosh, that's the Phipps Ranch. And he said, how do you know? I said, because everybody in Douglas County knows about it. County
Which year was this now?
Pardon?
Which year was this that the flight occurred?
Probably 1978.
Okay.
Early 78. And we looked at it and did all the photography. And then the game was to put it together into a slide presentation that Phil Riley was going to take to New York and to present to Philip Morris to see if they would be interested in it. At the time, I believe the Highlands Ventures had purchased the property, and so it was an arrangement that the Mission Video Company was looking at, because Highland Ventures, I think, probably didn't have the wherewithal or the knowledge to build out that kind of community. And that's really a city when you're dealing with 22,000 acres. So at any rate, we worked over the weekend, put together a slide presentation. Phil flew through Denver on Monday morning, I believe, Tuesday morning, on his way to New York, picked up the slide, and in those days it was carousels. There was no such thing as putting it on a digital. It was in the carousel. He picked it up, took it with him.
This picture, you'll see it has the mountains and Chatfield. The other slide did not have that.
Now we have Meg Anderson.
And Meg was a caterer and friend to Tweet Kemple at the Cherokee Castle and Ranch.
I don't have that much to say, but my story kind of predates Jim's. I catered for Tweet, and I came down there one evening to cater a party for her, and she's kind of walking around and looking at this and this and this. She's walking. Apparently, they had asked her to have the Centennial filmed at the castle, and she was debating. She could have used the cash. They were going to pay her $300 a day, and she was excited about that. But she kept saying, oh, but I'd have to put this away, and I couldn't leave this out. This would fit in someone's purse, and all these different things. So she was really debating, but the crown thing that made her decide she did not want it was they said, well, we're going to have to cut down a lot of these trees because they didn't have trees. And she said, why don't you try the Phipps Ranch?
When did you get involved in helping with some of the filming down here at the Highlands Ranch Mansion?
We had a call from Mission View who said that they had been offered this opportunity. And I believe that may have been through Phil Riley and through connections with Marvin Davis, who was involved with Universal Studios, I believe. Certainly with Hollywood, I'm not sure of the studio. But who had contacted and asked about it because the director had seen the mansion, the Phipps Mansion, and imagined that that's what Mitchell was talking about when he envisioned and wrote about the house and the mansion in Centennial, and asked if they could use it. Mission Viejo said, we turned them down. We said no. We said, may we ask you to reconsider it, because this is a perfect opportunity for you to get the community, to know the community better, and for the community to get to know you better. They see you as a California developer. This would be a wonderful opportunity to introduce Colorado to Mission Viejo and vice versa. So they said, well, think about it. It's way ahead of our planning, and we don't like to do things. Mission Viejo is a very deliberative company, and they always like to know exactly where they're going and what they're going to do before they go public. And they had not even begun to complete the planning of it. So we said, with all of that being said, it's very important in Colorado to know who Mission Viejo is, the company and the backing of it, and just the simple strength of your company. So they said, well, think about it. Tell us what kind of proposal you would do. So how would we be involved? So we put together a proposal that said, let us entertain people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If the movie company will agree that we can be there for breakfast and lunch at least, and then have one grand party at the end. And they said, oh, okay, they were interested in it, Mission Viejo Day, and that they would talk to the movie company. The movie company agreed, as long as we didn't interrupt the movie scheduling, to allow people to come, a certain amount of people, I think the number was 25 or 30, they would be able to use their canteen and be able to have breakfast with the stars, and then observe the movies as they were being filmed, and then they would be able to do lunch with the stars and observe again in the afternoon, and then we would have one closing party at Beneford Ranch.
Well, that certainly was a miniseries that had a cast of thousands of stars.
Could you give us a little more background on your company, its name, and what you put together to work with Highlands Ranch?
Thank you for the question. My company was Brock and Associates, and we were the marketing, communications, and advertising agency for Highlands Ranch, Mission Viejo, Colorado, as a housing project, and for Highlands Ranch, the new town of Highlands Ranch. Our first assignment after the announcement that Mission Viejo had bought Highlands Ranch was, there was a great furor about California developers, and it was basically very much of a no-growth time in Colorado. So our job was to keep them out of the newspaper and to keep them quiet, which is why Centennial was a disruptor, if you will, in that they came in during that silent, that dark year, and they didn't want to be too loud about what they were doing. They understood our point of view, that it would give them a platform from which to tell their story, but they were, it was not according to the plan, which was to be dark.
Okay, Kathy worked with giving, as she said, with casting as well as a talent agency. And this was a clipping from a newspaper, Stars of Tomorrow.
What other impacts to the community occurred during that week of filming?
The one that was probably most desperate as far as I was concerned as in public relations and communications was in order to get people to the ranch, you have to realize there was no C-470 or any kind of, other than County Line Road, which was just a ribbon of length, up and down, slow traffic to begin with. And here we had the bus that we were hauling people from somewhere over toward I-25, that they would come and park their cars because of the problem, the little dirt road up to the mansion and traffic. We had hired the old Larimer Square British buses, the double deckers, and they were slow as they go. And I am leaving the ranch one day in my car, and I see all this traffic, and I see the head of the line is one of these old British buses with Mission Viejo Company on the side. And I said two things: get the sign off that bus right now, and get the buses off the county line road. This traffic jam is not going to be brought to you by Mission Viejo. County line was absolutely terrible.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Dean Latany. Dean has traveled extensively, all over the country, providing special effects for film and stage for 57 years. He worked his magic on the segment of the mini-series Centennial, based on James Fisher's book, that was filmed here at the Highlands Ranch Mansion for 10 days in September of 1978. Dean has worked in New York, Denver, Texas, and as I said, all over the country. Thank you for being with us, Dan.
Well, when we came here, we came down from Orchard, where we were doing most of the shooting. And we had built a town in Orchard, Colorado. And by building a town, I mean literally, we built a town. And we shot a lot up there, and then we came down here to shoot. And the fun part about shooting down here was, I lived in Mission Viejo, Aurora. So it was actually a nice drive for me to get from there to here versus from there to Orchard every day. When we came in, she was right, the traffic was miserable. And somebody forgot to tell people that there was going to probably be about 250 or 300 of us here. So that was kind of exciting, because they had no idea. What you see now when you come in is where we had our trucks parked. And right over here, right down this road, was where we had the big catering tents. And since I was in special effects, my boss, Whitey, had made a great deal that we always parked right next to the catering people. Whitey figured this one out early. He was a veteran in many movies. So whenever we were there, we would always know what was going on in catering. So yes, Mission Viejo had people coming every day to watch us, and we built up scaffolding. And the one thing that we did, the real thing, was we did the big blizzard out here. You have to remember, it's September, it's 70, 80 degrees out here, and we're going to film a blizzard. We have scaffolding set up. Houston gets us later in a second. There's the scaffolding. We have scaffolding set up all out in front, and what he's doing right there is he's putting sipon on the roof. And what that is it's the foam that the planes land on for emergency landings at that point in time. And that was the closest thing we had that would stick onto anything. We shot it up all over the roof, everywhere. And then on the trees, because it's winter, we put marble dust. So it was a nice frosty look. And for snow, because we've been shooting in Greeley, and Greeley has a lot of potatoes. We were using dehydrated potato flakes. So you can imagine when we actually went to do the shooting, and there they are. We've got giant fans, and the guys are throwing this up, and we've got like 6 cameras rolling, and they're shooting, and we're...
All right, you're good.
Well, this was all fine and dandy, and we got through this, and you see, there's looking out through, a couple close-ups. It was fun. Well, nobody bothered to tell we're special effects, so we can make the big mess. We walk away. Next day, they go, well, we're gonna do some interior stuff. So out here in the fireplace, in the main hall, I set up my little propane tank, ran it outside because we couldn't rely on a regular fire. You know, we had to have fire up, fire down, fire up, fire down. So we're sitting outside, and I'm outside watching, and here's an entire crew of people scrubbing everything down, picking potato flakes up, which had been in the cycle by this point in time too, so they were no longer dried potato flakes. It was sort of like mashed potatoes. And they had to wash off all the trees because somebody, a director, had thought, well, why don't we shoot a springtime shot the next day? And again, I'm in special effects. It doesn't bother me at all. But these guys, these poor guys out there, they had to scrub and get everything ready and then make the ranch look like it was spring, so they had to bring in flowers and everything. And all this whole time, we'd been sitting next to a catering truck, and we always ask, what's for breakfast? Yeah, pretty standard. What's for lunch? Well, we're going to have steak and lobster. Yeah, right. Sure we are. Yeah. Well, as it turns out, we did have steak and lobster. And I'm trying to figure this out. You know, okay, we've been on this movie for like, by this point in time, 3 months between Orchard and everything, and we'd never had anything like that. And I said, well, what's going on? Well, we have the investors coming in today. So we want to make a good impression. And all you guys have to be really nice. And I was like, okay, steak and lobster? Crew about 250? Sure, we can be great. So that's what we did. And, you know, a lot of the interiors were shot out here, and there was some stuff upstairs with Raymond Burr, and he was doing his own thing up there. And,
Talk about what you did in the different rooms as I showed here.
okay. Well, in the living room,
I'll have a fireplace shot.
oh, you'll have a fireplace shot, good. Well, this was all brought in special for here. We had blacked out the windows. You know, they were blacked out, but they weren't blacked out. We had giant 12K lights behind them, 12,000 watt lights shining in to make sunlight.
You guys there a week before filming.
Oh, yeah. We've been here for a week, 2 weeks. Well, actually, I think we were here for almost a week and a half before we actually started filming. Because we didn't film that long here, really. And once we filmed here, I left right after the shooting and the little cleanup that we did. And I was off to New York for that show. A lot of these, you know, special effects doesn't do everything. These are just, you know, some of the still shots where the cameras were in, setting up the office, the foyer. Yes, that was. And remember, none of this was here. This was, like he had said, it was really a rundown mansion. We brought everything in. And there's the massive fireplace. What you don't see is that there's a hose going out that side, on around, on through, out to my propane tank sitting on. And the director, you know, is in my ear, we need more flame. Okay, we got more flame. We need less flame. You got less flame. But, you know, this was, when you see the film, you don't think, well, you look at the mansion now, and you go, well, they could have all been that way. And it might have been, but it was all the Hollywood magic that made all this. This is where Raymond Burr was, I think this is where Raymond was shooting. He loved this place so much that later he came back and shot a couple of series here, and caused Dick Van Dyke to come here. And we had a movie industry that sprung up here for a while, all because of Centennial. So as we as workers loved shooting up here. Yeah. That's when Timothy died. No, that wasn't Timothy? Oh, no.
That's another picture.
Oh, that's another one, yeah.
The one before that was a picture of me, how come I didn't get a peek?
Oh, there it was. It was a back shot. I could, I'd suggest asking Universal. Yeah, and I think that all of that was white, because that was how we shot it. And it was all covered with marble dust, and potato flakes and everything. And that was what it ended up looking like for that spring shot, after those poor people had cleaned all of that up. And that was, just think that all covered in white. And that was what the next day would look like. It's actually you can see that all the windows are blacked out, kind of thing, that we would black them all out, and then we'd put lights behind that and shine them through. You don't see that in there. So a lot of this I didn't have any part of, which I'm actually kind of thankful for. Special effects, we were just here for special things.
That is Pat Farrell, painting. He's the one who called Dad and Phil and told them about the ranch.
The guy next to him, the guy next to him was still
And that's
around.
still riding next to him.
Yeah, Pat Farrell is the gentleman in the cream-colored coat pointing. He's the one who alerted Mission Company, Dan and Phil, to the property out here. And then Phil Riley is right next to him.
Explain it, Phil.
Phil was president of Mission Viejo Company and one of the founders of Mission Viejo Company.
That's a face issue, until I get paid.
See, he looks like a movie star.
Looks like Steve McQueen. That's a very famous actor.
Sarah, you talk to the actors, or Dean, you can talk to the actors. You want to do that? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, these were some of the actors who were here doing the filming. Raymond Burr, and of course, Lynn Redgrave, and who? Timothy Dalton, and all the furniture was rented. Okay, Cliff DeYoung as John Skimmerhorn. Now you're going to want to watch the series, aren't you? Okay, William Atherton as Jim Lloyd.
That was the director.
Okay, the director. Okay, Mark just said they had about 4 directors at the time. Clive Rebel as Finlay Perkin. Okay, scenes, makeup.
Dean, you want to talk to this scene?
Lynn getting her makeup on. And of course, you recognize the clock. The room there. And the dark picture that we just saw was, of course, the billiard room. Is that what you call it, Susie? Billiard room? Music room, okay, and office. They used it as an office. There. And the foyer, of course. And of course, our wonderful fireplace.
In this picture, it's really interesting to see that they changed the lights 3 different times in the living room. So look at the light to the right. They actually changed our lights to, you know, that looks like it's burning, this gas lamp. So they were physically changing the lights on the walls.
Oh, physically changing the lights on the wall. The lights. Mhm. Thank you. And the dining room, of course. Upstairs sitting room, which was the death scene. That's where that was filmed.
Sarah, is this on Netflix?
No, it will be on our website. Okay, so please go to our website and, I don't know if the miniseries is on Netflix or not,
It is, yeah.
but they do have the series at the library.
You have to get the DVDs from Centennial.
It's on Star's first season, if you have that on your
Okay, now this thing, they did come back in November. Some of the crew came back in November and filmed the snow. And we have one more speaker. We do have Perry. Perry was on scene also, along with his father.
Hello, everyone.
Are y'all able, excuse me, are y'all able to hear back there? You can, good.
I am a member of the International Alliance of the Theatrical Stage Employees, and they hire Denver local people to work in the movie industries that are local. And so I was on Centennial, but I built the town of Orchard, which is up north from Fort Morgan. I remember waking up early in the morning to be at Fort Morgan by 6 o'clock so we can be bused to Orchard, Colorado, and strap on our tool belts and swing hammers at 7 o'clock in the morning and work all the way till 7 o'clock at night. And my father was a carpenter as well, but he worked in 3 different places. He worked at Central City, because they did some shoots there, and then he worked here, and then he ended up in Orchard. But I remember him talking about building here or being a carpenter here. It's in Orchard Mansion, and I can't imagine all those trucks coming in, you know, because there's so many trucks in the film industry that are coming up the road, and Jimmy probably. The road was probably a mess, all these trucks with the set trucks, catering trucks, grip trucks, electric trucks, camera trucks, a whole slew of trucks going everywhere. There's so many, in the film industry, everything is departmentalized. You have a tool belt on with a hammer, you cannot touch a broom, you cannot touch a light, you cannot touch anything but nail and a hammer. And this is one of the scenes here. This is probably real snow, I'm sure it is, because they're all wearing gloves and they're pretty suited up for cold weather. And my dad remembers filming against the silos back there with the cowboys sitting on the fence there, just like that. But yeah, he had a great time. He remembers it was very, very cold. He wore, I don't know, like 4 pairs of long underwear. And only to find out when he did have to go to the bathroom, he put on the first pair backwards. So, he always loved that story. So I made kind of a weird predicament there. But anyway. He did meet Lynn Redgrave, and she, after the shoot, she offered the cast and crew to come to her, I guess, Hollywood house in California, that she was gonna have a big shindig. I think my dad was the only one who went, right, Dean?
Yeah.
No locals ever went, but I remember he flew out there, and he had a wonderful time out there, and she was so generous, she was just the nicest lady. And I don't know how many of you have seen Centennial, but does anybody have a favorite character in Centennial?
Alex Karras.
That is my favorite character as well. Alex Karras was awesome. Yeah, Senior Grandpa. Excellent character. I loved him for that. And he was a very nice guy too. That's it? Okay. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Perry. And now we have a video that Lawrence Phipps did. Lawrence Phipps, the junior, the third. It was from an oral history, and Meg provided it to us.
We did this oral history at the castle after Tweet died, and Lawrence came down and showed us the, stop it. I'm making fun of my vertical pyramid. It's all right, he's gonna show the film of Lawrence. And this is Lawrence's take. He was running cattle on the property when Centennial was built.
Through those years, apparently there was the filming of Centennial occurred. Tweed apparently was offered to have them here. And there was a story goes, I understand they want to cut some trees down, and she was absolutely not getting, no, not here. But it was filmed on Highlands Ranch.
Some segments of it were. They picked a town east of Greeley. I can't remember its name. It may have been Hygiene or something like that.
It was Orchard.
Where they did much of the filming. But there, you know, Centennial was an epic type thing with a lot of different television segments that covered first the fur trappers, or the Indians that were here at the beginning, and then the fur trappers came, and then suddenly people moved into the lower South Platte around Sterling and started farming, and then they encroached more on the Indian territory. And then finally the cattlemen came, and that's where the whole Beneford Ranch series of Centennial became. And that part was filmed at Highlands Ranch. I'd never been involved in filming it before, and we sold the ranch to the Davis Group, and they in turn had auctioned it off to Philip Morris. And I was still leasing the ranch back and running cattle, and all the people who worked there for my father were still working for me there, and we're there. And I told the Philip Morris people, they asked me if I had any problems with a minor television film production there. And I said, no, I don't have any problems. I didn't realize that they were going to move in there with more than 30 actors that all had to have their private little dressing rooms. And then film crews and grips and sound people and everything. There were more than 200 people there. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office had a major bust because many of these Hollywood types they came in with tons of marijuana and coke. It was one of the largest busts that Douglas County has ever made. All these people from Universal Studios. And then they killed one of their actors. It was cold, it was wintertime. So the film director ordered skirts, cloth skirts built around these semi-trailers that had been converted into dressing rooms. And he didn't know that this is where they got their fresh air. And then he put construction heaters under the skirts to warm up the dressing rooms. And so one hapless actor went in there to change clothes and study his lines, and he was supposed to reappear in 30 minutes. He didn't come. They went and got him. He was dead. They killed him. Yeah. And by this time, I was having trouble dealing with all these Hollywood types. And I told the Mission Viejo people and Philip Morris people, I thought this would not interrupt cattle operations. And all these things were certainly interrupting cattle operations, major drug busts. And other problems were the men that worked for me then. They had to teach all the actors, they didn't know how to put on spurs, for example. They didn't know whether to tuck their pants inside or outside of their boots. And so they were always being pulled off of jobs, what they were supposed to be doing for me, to tell these Hollywood types how to be prettier. But yes, I certainly remember it.
Okay, well, that concludes our program. Oh, right. Kathy is back with us. Kathy is back with us.
What were your favorite memories of being present during the filming?
But probably the all-time funny story is when Vanessa Redgrave and I forgot, I can't tell you who this, she was the primary star, but there were 2 or 3 other. They were shooting a movie right by the columns on the front porch of the Highlands Ranch Mansion. And all of a sudden, there was all this stir, and everybody was screaming, including Mr. Redgrave. And what the camera lights had enlivened an entire hive of bees that had been buried in the wooden banister, the beams, and the bees were all out flying and buzzing and swarming everybody, and everybody escaped inside. Everything was fine except it stopped the movie production. The director was furious. Money and time is money. They absolutely said, fix it. It's your responsibility. So somehow Mission Viejo was able to get Art Cook, saved the day. It was on the scene. He was able to get somebody to come down and capture all the bees. And nobody wanted to kill the bees for sure. And so the bees were all gathered up and taken off to some place where the happy bees go. And the scene could resume the next morning, or the next day.
It really wasn't your job to manage the crowds and things on behalf of the client during the filming. We heard there might have been a grass fire and parked cars that were allowed onto the property. Tell me about that.
Art Cook and I were surveying the property. We had everybody settled in, I believe, for lunch. And we were looking at somebody's catalytic converter. I was very dry. I had started the meadow in front of the mansion. You could just see a little bit of smoke. And Art reacted like gangbusters, and they had all the water trucks, and they were well prepared. I don't know whether the movie company had done that, or whether Mission Viejo had done that. I suspect it was the latter, or a combination, a cooperative. That fire was out in such a big hurry and the cars moved with the greatest dispatch in the wide world. If you blinked, you might have missed it. So, but it was art was as usual, very cool as hell. We can handle this, got it under control. I think we had very good food. But that, again, the food was provided by the movie sets, canteen, the cafeteria operation, and trust me, movie stars eat very, very well. They were self-standing, they had so we had nothing to do with the preparation and the food until the last party. And we dealt with a Denver caterer by the name of Le Petit Gourmet, a sweet soiree, a man named Bill Bound, who was really at that time the only show in town. He was the only one that had the facility. And he had never done a party for, I want to say there were maybe 600 people outdoors, no electricity, self-standing. And the only electricity was running literally from the house or from the small house in the front.
Jim, you can tell me if this is accurate or not, but Kathy thought that this picture is in fact Governor Lamb next to you at the big party at the end.
Yes.
Don't you think that's a little ironic that a guy would come to the filming of Centennial who vowed to put a silver stake through the interstate highway and your project?
We gave him $50 towards his reelection. One very important question. We have, I think, in the audience, Jeff Case, maybe Forrest Dykstra. They're the engineers that revamped this mansion. And Forrest, they did the lawn and it was beautiful. But Forrest always kept asking me, Jim, why do the potatoes keep coming up every spring in the lawn? And now we know why. Thank you very much. Oh, you got the sound. And I didn't get paid for that picture either. I got to go up.
Okay.
Yes, here at my brother-in-law, Scott.
Scott, can you come up and talk about the one scene? I know Sarah wanted people to talk about if they were here for the filming, and I thought yours was pretty funny, actually. He happened to see the scene of Oliver Seacom doing himself in.
Well, went around Easter, past the barns, and they were doing the scene where he's gonna commit suicide. And you know how Hollywood, they act real well. But he's standing there, and you gotta be real quiet. And we're facing south. And he's doing a real long speech. And he's looking out across Denver. And you know, from here, you can see downtown pretty well. And he's saying how beautiful it is, how far you can see. And we're like, it's pure brown. You can barely see a glint of a skyscraper. You can't see anything that's pretty. You can't see the mountains. I'm like, man, can you act?
Okay. And we have some other people. people. Okay, who would like to be next? Marvin? Where's Marvin? Oh, here we go. Okay.
Well, my name is Marvin Beeman, and this brings back wonderful memories. I first attended a party at the big house, and it was Lawrence that you saw on the screen's birthday. And my sister and I had lunch right over there in that room. And the mansion at that time, they had a maid, they had a butler, and they had many, many other things that went with the mansion. And I would get to come over and play with Lawrence, especially at Christmas time. And where the white room is, where the marble white room is, they had a great big Christmas tree. And Lawrence had enough electric trains that ran all over the big house. And I just loved those electric trains, and he could have given a damn about the electric trains.
Something to say about the filming when she was here?
She sure did. And my wife, who is here, she had an occasion to come participate in watching some of the things that went on. And Uni, you want to tell them about your book?
Well, at one time, we lived in the cottage just across the front lawn. But unfortunately, the flood came along and the foreman's house was washed away. So we were the only ones on the ranch who really didn't need to be here. So we gave up our house for them to move up here. So Marion Morgan was living over in the cottage at that time. And I would come out and we'd sit out or look out the windows and watch all this going on. And I don't know now how it happened. It's been too many years ago, I guess. But somehow, and it seems like I was out here in the front road, and Lynn Redgrave came out and autographed my book. So I thought that was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. Dr. Beeman, thank you very much.
Is that you in the picture in the office and riding the horse as a child?
Yes, ma'am. That's me when I was 10. Could I have this, Jim, could you show that picture of the cattle in the barn? The mark coming on the screen, I'm sorry. By the way, that was real snow up there. There were no potatoes to do with that. And that scene, for those of you who live here, that scene is straight east, and that was what we called the purebred pasture. That's where the cattle, the purebred herd that Mr. Phipps had that went with the other cattle. But, and well, straight out across there, that was a purebred pasture. Now, if you could show the barn, or the, in there, yeah, right there. That's a really interesting barn. You just heard my wife. She and I did 2 cesarean sections in one of those stalls right there on my birthday.
He's talking about horses.
Don't need to take your time, but I have to say something. We've talked about a lot of the Hollywood types and things like that, but we've also heard that there were a lot of very nice people that were there, that happened to be actors. And I was privileged to be at one of the I don't know if it was a big party or not, but this took place on the far side, on the west side of the mansion. And I met Timothy Dalton. I got really huge hands, and his hands made mine tiny.
So I remember that about him. He was very kind, very gentle. I was about 20. I'm almost 60 in a couple months. So it's been a while. Anyway, and then the gentleman with whom I spoke the longest was Clive Ravel. He was played that he was actually in that picture of the snow too.
The Scottish accountant.
Yes. And we ended up deep in conversation about fishing for probably an hour and a half. And so I guess I just wanted to mention that because my family's laughing. Yes, we love to fish. But anyway, just here he is. Nicest guy in the whole world. You would never have known he was an actor. And he also, by the way, he was in, I looked him up, he was in Star Wars, he was in the Return of, or the Empire Strikes Back, I guess. And anyway, and then in a Star Trek thing. So he was better known than I guess I am.
Well, thank you very much, Diane. Diane is Jim's daughter. Thank you. Well, and do we have any other people who were present during the filming? No, well, now we all were. So, okay. Okay. Well, I would like to thank some people.
Can I ask some questions?
Well,
We have time.
also we get. Okay, Mark says we do have time. So, okay, we might keep you a little bit past 8:30 then, because I do have some things to add. So do we have any questions? Anyone? Okay, well, we'll get on with it then. Okay, so I would like to thank all of the people who contributed to tonight's program. I would especially like to thank Jim Tuffer for planning and overseeing the development of Highlands Ranch, his great stories, Kathy Brock, Dean Lavany for all his special effects, secrets of the trade and remembrances, Mary Elliott for his stories, and Meg who always comes through for us. And Jeff Case, who scanned the pictures from Jim's albums for us, and of course, Mark here. Oh yes, and of course Meg, I said Meg, who always comes through for us. And everything she does, including the wonderful tickets to the Cherokee Castle that she provided for us last month. Okay, a very special thank you to Mark Stevenson, who does our oral histories. He prefers to be behind the camera, but he knows so much of the history of this area, of Highlands Ranch history and all other history. And to all who contributed their stories, who worked countless, and Mark who worked countless hours extracting pictures and making our PowerPoint fit with the script, which we had to sort of not go by because of things that happened today. But, and I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed. Okay. And to Mark for searching and checking facts and much more, all the things that he has done. Now I'd like to introduce to you the board, the Highlands Ranch Historical Society Board. First of all, I would like to thank, and would you please stand? I'd like to thank Susie, and where did she go? Susie and Harlan. Of course, I'm sorry, Harlan. Susie and Harlan to allow them We thank you for inviting us to participate here. And we'd like to thank all the docents. Would the docents please stand? to thank our wranglers, our Highlands Ranch Historical Society wranglers. Please stand. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce the board. Okay, if you'll come up, please, as I call your name. David Hill is our president and webmaster. Paul McKegg is our vice president in charge of logistics. David Avery is our treasurer. David Johnson is our secretary. Paul Squire is our community events person. Danny Ruth is our webmaster assistant. He's in the back, he's doing the camera. He just waved to everybody. Okay, our project people, Mark Stevenson and Nancy Linson Bigler. Nancy does our tours. Nancy, would you come up, please? Nancy does our tours and keeps the board in line. Sandy and Paul Chamberlain, who are head of our wranglers, come on up. And Don Bruno, who does our public speaking. And I'm Sarah Lewalski, the vice president in charge of programs. This is our board. We do a lot of community events, a lot of community work. And we invite you to go to our website, see what our program will be for next month, and check out the wonderful oral histories.
I've been privileged to do a number of oral histories for the last 3 years or so here, really starting with Jim Tepper here. And we've learned a lot about the community because of their contributions. We've got all this stuff published, not only down at the Douglas County Library online for you to look at. These are the video oral histories, and they're interesting. They're also published on our own website, thehrhs.org, that I have up on the screen here. So I would invite you, if you like what you heard from Kathy by way of the video clips, or Jim, what you heard of today in person, check out that website if you like, and you'll hear lots more stories, particularly from Jim. Marvin, Dr. Beeman talked. We did an oral history with him. He has some wonderful stories about his time here as well. Gary Danny, you're in the office. You're in the audience here. Are you not? You stand up. Gary did an oral history as an early resident. If you don't know his history, he was the purportedly the first homeowner. But he worked for Highlands, he worked for Mission Viejo, so they thought it wouldn't be a good idea to have an internal employee get an award because Mission Viejo gave him a cow. So Gary didn't get the cow, but he did get the award of having the first baby born in Highlands Ranch. There was some discussion that Jim Tepper wasn't very happy about that because one of his daughters was pregnant at the same time. And missed out by a couple weeks, if I remember the story correctly. In any case, check out our website or down at Douglas County Library, and there's a lot of this type of content, if you're interested in what you hear tonight, that's published there as well.
Thank you very much for coming. We hope to see you next month at Southridge. Thank you.